Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something today that a lot of people don't talk about openly. And the reason they don't talk about it is because most men don't even realize they're doing it. But it happens every single day in relationships. There is a quiet, unspoken test that many men use when they are trying to figure out who a woman really is. I'm not talking about a written test. I'm not talking about a checklist. And I'm definitely not talking about some game that men plan ahead of time. I'm talking about something deeper than that, something that comes from instinct. Ladies and gentlemen, let me share something with you that many people overlook when they talk about relationships. A lot of folks believe that love begins with big gestures, romantic words, and grand moments. But the truth is, most men don't figure out who a woman really is during the big moments. They figure it out during the small ones. And one of the quiet ways a man learns about a woman is by watching how she reacts to small challenges that happen naturally in life. Now listen carefully, because this isn't about men playing games. It's not about tricking someone or setting traps. Most of the time, a man doesn't even realize he's doing it. It's instinct. It's observation. When a man starts becoming interested in a woman, there's a part of him that begins to watch and evaluate how she handles situations that are slightly uncomfortable, slightly unexpected, or slightly inconvenient. You see, anyone can look amazing when everything is going perfectly. Anyone can be kind when the mood is right. Anyone can be patient when nothing is going wrong. But life doesn't stay perfect all the time. And deep down, every man knows that. So what he wants to understand is not just who you are when everything is smooth, but who you are when something small goes off track. Sometimes it's something simple. Maybe he doesn't text you back immediately. Now that might seem like a small thing, but how a person reacts to that moment says a lot. Some people become anxious right away. They start overthinking, wondering if something is wrong, wondering if they said something wrong, wondering if the interest is fading. Others react with frustration or anger, sending multiple messages or demanding an explanation. But then there are women who handle that moment differently. They stay calm. They understand that people have lives, responsibilities, and moments when they're busy. They don't jump to negative conclusions, and they don't let a small delay shake their confidence. When a man sees that kind of response, something clicks in his mind. He realizes he is dealing with someone emotionally balanced, someone who doesn't crumble the moment uncertainty appears. Another example might be a small disagreement. Now, every relationship will have disagreements. That's just reality. Two people with different backgrounds, opinions, and experiences are not going to see everything the same way. But what matters is how those disagreements are handled. A man might express a different opinion just to see how the conversation flows, not to start a fight, but to observe the reaction. Some people immediately turn disagreement into conflict. They raise their voice, become defensive, or take it personally. Suddenly, the conversation turns tense, and a small difference becomes a big problem. But when a woman can listen calmly, express her perspective respectfully, and allow space for another viewpoint, that tells a man something powerful about a character, because what he sees in that moment is maturity. He sees someone who understands that disagreement doesn't have to mean disrespect. He sees someone who can stand in her truth without needing to attack someone else's truth. That level of emotional control is rare, and when a man notices it, it leaves a lasting impression. There are also moments when plans change. Maybe a dinner gets rescheduled. Maybe something unexpected comes up. Maybe the evening doesn't unfold exactly the way it was imagined. These are the moments where reactions reveal personality more than words ever could. Some people respond with frustration immediately, making the situation heavier than it needs to be. Others take it personally, assuming the worst intentions. But a woman who can adapt gracefully, who understands that life is unpredictable, shows a level of flexibility that makes a man feel comfortable around her. He begins to realize that being with her doesn't mean walking on eggshells or worrying that every small hiccup will turn into a major emotional storm. And let me tell you something important. Ladies and gentlemen, men are often paying attention to energy more than anything else. A man wants to know if being around you brings peace or pressure. When small challenges appear, your reaction sends a signal about what kind of environment you create in a relationship. If every small issue becomes a dramatic situation, a man starts imagining what life would feel like long term. But if he sees someone who handles those moments with calmness, patience, and emotional strength, he begins to feel safe. And safety is a powerful feeling in relationships. A woman who remains steady during small challenges shows something deeper than confidence. She shows self-awareness. She shows that her emotions are not easily controlled by every little situation. She shows that she has a strong sense of self that doesn't depend on constant reassurance. And that kind of energy is magnetic, because when a man sees that a woman is emotionally grounded, he stops worrying about walking the wrong line. He stops feeling like he has to manage every tiny detail perfectly just to avoid conflict. Instead, he feels like he can be real, relaxed, and authentic. The truth is, those small challenges are never really about the situation itself. They are about observation. There are moments where a man quietly learns how a woman thinks, how she feels, and how she manages her emotions when something unexpected appears. And ladies and gentlemen, reactions are powerful because they reveal the truth that words sometimes hide. Anyone can say they are patient, understanding, and mature, but when life throws a small curveball, the reaction tells the real story. That's why those little moments matter more than people realize. They are not dramatic scenes. They are not huge conflicts, but they are windows into someone's character. And when a woman shows calmness, confidence, and grace in those moments, she sends a message without even trying. The message is simple and powerful. She is not shaken by small storms, and that strength is something a man will always notice. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that many women don't realize when it comes to relationships. A man may not always say what he's observing, but he is always paying attention. One of the most powerful things a man quietly watches is a woman's standards. Not the standards she talks about, but the standards she actually lives by. Because there's a big difference between saying you value yourself and truly showing that value through your actions. You see, when a man first starts getting to know a woman, he naturally tries to understand how she sees herself. And the interesting thing is that people reveal their self-worth without even realizing it. They reveal it in the way they allow themselves to be treated. They reveal it in the way they respond to attention, to effort, and even to disrespect. A man might not ask you directly what your standards are, but he will definitely observe them. Sometimes this happens through very simple situations. A man might show a certain level of effort at the beginning. Maybe he calls, maybe he plans something thoughtful, maybe he shows genuine interest in your life. And while all that is happening, he is also watching how you respond to that effort. Does she appreciate it? Does she recognize it? Or does she act like it's the bare minimum? that deserves no acknowledgement. Now, here's something important to understand. Appreciation is powerful. When a woman genuinely values effort, it encourages a man to continue showing up with intention. But when effort is ignored or taken for granted, it can slowly reduce motivation. A man begins to wonder if what he's doing matters. But there is another side to this observation as well. Sometimes a man will intentionally lower the level of effort just a little bit, not because he doesn't care, but because he wants to see something. He wants to see if the woman in front of him notices the difference in how she reacts to it. This is where standards quietly reveal themselves. If a woman accepts any level of effort without question, a man learns that she may not expect much. If plans become last minute, communication becomes inconsistent, or attention becomes minimal, and she still accepts it without hesitation, the message becomes clear. Her standards may be lower than she realizes. But when a woman calmly maintains her expectations without drama, without begging, and without chasing, something very different happens. She communicates that her time and energy are valuable. She shows that she is not willing to accept just anything simply because someone is interested in her. That kind of quiet strength speaks louder than any speech about self-worth. Now understand something, ladies and gentlemen. Standards are not about arrogance or making someone feel inferior. They're about alignment. They are about showing that you understand the kind of treatment that matches your values. When a woman has clear standards, it helps a man understand where he stands and what kind of energy is expected in the relationship. A man often respects a woman more when he sees that she does not compromise her dignity for attention, when she doesn't chase someone who is clearly inconsistent, when she doesn't ignore red flags just because she wants the relationship to work. These choices tell a man that she is not operating from desperation. She is operating from self-respect. And let me tell you something powerful about self-respect. It naturally attracts respect from others. People tend to treat you the way you allow yourself to be treated. When a woman holds herself with confidence and clarity, it creates a boundary without needing to say a single word. There are also moments when a man might say something slightly questionable or make a joke that crosses a line just a little. In that moment, he is watching the reaction carefully, not because he wants to offend, but because he wants to see if the woman in front of him will stand up for herself respectfully. If a woman laughs it off, even though it makes her uncomfortable, he learns that she might tolerate things that don't align with her feelings. But if she calmly expresses that something doesn't sit right with her, without aggression, but with firmness, that moment communicates strength. It tells him that she knows where her boundaries are. And boundaries are not walls meant to push people away. They are signals that show people how to interact with you properly. When a man sees a woman who respects her own boundaries, he often becomes more mindful of how he behaves around her. He understands that she expects to be treated with consideration. Another thing men observe is consistency. A woman's standards are not just about one moment or one conversation. They are about patterns. If someone says they value honesty but tolerates dishonesty, repeatedly, the words lose meaning. If someone says they want respect but continues entertaining disrespectful behavior, the message becomes unclear. But when a woman's actions match her words, it creates a powerful sense of integrity. She becomes someone whose presence carries weight because people know she means what she says. That kind of authenticity is deeply attractive. What many people don't realize is that standards don't scare away the right people. They filter out the wrong ones. A man who is genuinely interested in building something meaningful will not be intimidated by a woman who respects herself. In fact, he will admire it. He will see it as a sign that she understands her value and is not willing to settle for less than she deserves. And when a man recognizes that kind of energy, something shifts in the way he approaches the relationship. He becomes more intentional. He becomes more thoughtful. He understands that he is dealing with someone who values quality over convenience. Ladies and gentlemen, standards are like silent signals that reveal how a person sees themselves. They don't need to be announced loudly. They don't need to be enforced through arguments or demands. They show themselves through calm decisions, consistent behavior, and quiet confidence. When a woman truly understands her worth, it becomes visible in the way she moves through every interaction. She doesn't have to chase respect because her presence naturally commands it. And when a man sees that level of self-awareness, he learns something very important about the woman in front of him. He learns that her value is not negotiable, and that realization changes the entire dynamic of how he treats her. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that many people misunderstand about relationships. A lot of people think men are always looking for excitement, always looking for something fast, something thrilling, something that moves quickly. But the truth is, when a man is seriously thinking about a woman, when he is considering whether she could truly be part of his life, one of the most important things he quietly observes is patience and consistency. Now listen carefully, because patience is not about waiting around for someone to treat you poorly. Patience is not about ignoring your needs or tolerating disrespect. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is emotional patience, the kind that shows maturity, stability, and the ability to allow a relationship to develop naturally instead of forcing it to happen instantly. You see, when two people first meet, there is excitement, there is curiosity, there is attraction. But at the same time, both people are still learning about each other. They are learning about habits, personalities, values, and lifestyles. And that kind of understanding cannot happen overnight. It takes time. It takes observation. It takes moments where you see each other in different situations. A man often watches how a woman behaves during this stage of getting to know each other. Does she rush everything immediately? Does she push for quick answers about the future before the foundation has even been built? Or does she allow things to grow step by step, giving the connection space to breathe and develop? Because when a relationship is rushed too quickly, it can sometimes create pressure that wasn't necessary in the beginning. Instead of enjoying the process of discovering each other, both people start feeling like they have to meet expectations before they fully understand what they're building together. But when a woman shows patience, something very interesting happens in a man's mind. He begins to feel that she is not trying to trap him into something before he is ready. He begins to feel that she values genuine connection more than quick labels. And that sense of emotional balance makes him feel more comfortable opening up. Patience also shows up in another powerful way. It shows up in how someone handles uncertainty. Every relationship has moments where things are not perfectly clear. There might be times when communication slows down slightly because life becomes busy. There might be times when plans change or schedules become complicated. These are normal parts of life. But when someone reacts to every small moment of uncertainty with panic, frustration, or accusations, it creates tension very quickly. A man may begin to feel that every little shift in circumstances will lead to conflict. That kind of pressure can make someone feel overwhelmed before the relationship even has a chance to grow. On the other hand, when a woman remains calm and understanding during those moments, it sends a powerful message. It shows that she trusts the process. It shows that she understands life is not always perfectly predictable. And most importantly, it shows that she has emotional stability. Now let's talk about consistency, because patience alone is not the full picture. Consistency is what proves that patience is genuine. Consistency means that a person's behavior, attitude, and values remain steady over time. It means that the kindness you showed in the beginning doesn't suddenly disappear after a few weeks. It means the respect you showed early on continues to exist as the relationship evolves. A man often observes whether a woman's energy changes dramatically dependent on circumstances. For example, is she supportive only when things are going well? Or does she remain supportive even when situations become challenging? Does she remain kind and respectful during disagreements? Or does her personality shift completely when emotions rise? Consistency tells a man that what he is seeing is real. It tells him that the person in front of him is not simply performing a role to impress him during the early stages. Instead, he begins to believe that this is truly who she is. And let me tell you something important, ladies and gentlemen. People crave stability more than they realize. In a world that often feels unpredictable, having someone whose character remains steady is incredibly valuable. A woman who is consistent in her words, her behavior, and her emotional presence becomes someone a man can rely on. Reliability builds trust, and trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship. If a man feels like someone's attitude changes constantly, he may start to feel uncertain about what to expect. One day, everything feels warm and supportive. The next day, everything feels distant or critical. That kind of emotional roller coaster can make a person feel uneasy over time. But when a woman shows consistency, she creates a sense of peace. A man knows what kind of energy he will encounter when he speaks with her. He knows that respect will still be there even when conversations become difficult. He knows that patience will still exist when life becomes complicated. Consistency also shows strength of character. It demonstrates that a person is not easily influenced by temporary emotions or outside pressures. It shows that their values are deeply rooted, not easily shaken by every small challenge that appears. Another thing men quietly observe is whether patience and consistency exist together. Because patience without consistency can feel uncertain, and consistency without patience can feel rigid. But when both qualities exist at the same time, they create something powerful. They create emotional security. A woman who embodies patience and consistency becomes someone who feels safe to grow with. She becomes someone who allows a relationship to evolve naturally while maintaining the steady presence that keeps both people grounded. And ladies and gentlemen, when a man sees that kind of emotional maturity, he begins to imagine something beyond the present moment. He starts thinking about what life might look like months or years down the road. He begins to picture how challenges could be handled together, how disagreements could be resolved with respect, and how both people could continue supporting each other through different stages of life. That kind of vision doesn't appear because of dramatic words or flashy gestures. It appears because of quiet observations over time. Observations of patience when things take longer than expected. Observations of consistency when circumstances change. And when those qualities are present, they create a powerful impression that lasts far beyond the excitement of the early stages of attraction. They show a man that the woman in front of him is not just someone who can share fun moments, but someone who has the emotional strength to build something real. Ladies and gentlemen, now we get to one of the most important things a man observes when he is truly evaluating a woman, not just for a fleeting connection, but for something deeper, something long-term. And that is how a woman responds to respect. Now, I know that might sound simple, but it is far from simple. Respect is one of the most powerful forces in human relationships, and how a woman reacts when she receives it says more about her character than any words ever could. Think about it for a moment. Toti madmania to tell you that respect is not something you demand. It's not something that can be forced or earned through clever tactics. Respect is something that is offered naturally when someone recognizes your value, your boundaries, and your integrity, and a man will quietly watch how you accept that respect, not just once, not just in a single moment, but repeatedly in different situations. When a man shows respect, he may do it in subtle ways. Maybe he listens attentively when you speak. Maybe he values your opinion when making decisions. Maybe he treats your time as important. Maybe he shows consideration for your feelings, even when it is inconvenient for him. And all the while, he is observing one critical thing. How do you respond? Some women, unfortunately, misinterpret respect. They question it. They doubt it. They wonder if it's genuine or if it's a trick. They might feel uncomfortable because they are not used to someone treating them as valuable, and instead of receiving it gracefully, they try to test it or push it away. And when that happens, it tells a man a lot. It tells him that perhaps this woman is not fully confident in her worth, that she may struggle to recognize when someone is treating her well, and that she may unintentionally undermine the good energy being offered. But a woman who accepts respect with grace and quiet confidence sends a very different message. She communicates that she understands her worth without having to announce it. She communicates that she values herself enough to allow others to treat her accordingly. And that type of woman does not have to fight for validation because she already knows who she is. Let me give you an example. A man who is genuinely interested in building something meaningful with a woman will often show up consistently, offer his time, and act thoughtfully. A woman who sees this and accepts it without insecurity or ove. Rhymesync sends a message that she is comfortable in her own skin. She shows that she can recognize when someone's intentions are good, and she does not need constant reassurance to validate her place in the relationship. That level of self-awareness is magnetic. On the other hand, when respect is met with doubt, suspicion, or anxiety, it creates tension. The man notices it, even if it's subtle. He notices that every gesture of kindness or attention is met with hesitation or skepticism. And over time, that erodes the natural flow of connection. Respect requires a certain reciprocity, not in the sense that it must be returned immediately, but in the sense that it must be acknowledged and allowed to exist. Another thing men watch closely is how women handle respect in the context of disagreement. A man may respect a woman and her opinions, but disagreements will still happen because no two people see everything the same way. And how a woman navigates those moments reveals volumes. Does she remain composed and continue to show respect even when she strongly disagrees? Or does she let her emotions take over, forgetting the respect being offered in the process? When a woman can maintain respect in moments of conflict, she demonstrates emotional intelligence. She shows that she can engage without attacking, that she can disagree without undermining the other person, and that she values connection over winning arguments. That combination of respect, strength, and intelligence is something a man notices immediately. It's also important to understand that accepting respect does not mean tolerating disrespect. This is a critical distinction. A woman who knows her worth can gracefully accept genuine respect while simultaneously refusing anything less. She does not compromise her standards, and she does not allow anyone to cross boundaries. And that balance, grace with strength, is incredibly attractive. Men are naturally drawn to women who recognize their own value and accept respect confidently. They are drawn to women who do not shrink in the presence of kindness or hesitate to receive genuine gestures of care. Because when respect is welcomed appropriately, it creates a safe space for connection, to grow, a space where both people can show up authentically, without fear, without doubt, and without unnecessary testing. And here's the beauty of it, ladies and gentlemen. The way a woman responds to respect ultimately shapes the dynamic of the relationship. A woman who accepts it gracefully elevates the connection. She encourages a man to continue being thoughtful, intentional, and consistent. She creates an environment where both people can flourish. A woman who struggles to accept respect, however, creates uncertainty, even unintentionally, because the man begins to question if his efforts are recognized or appreciated. It's also worth noting that respect is cumulative. A man will test this not once or twice, but in different ways over time. Small gestures, thoughtful actions, moments of vulnerability. He is observing how she responds consistently. When a woman consistently demonstrates that she can accept respect, recognize genuine intention, and maintain her own standards at the same time, she communicates strength in a way that is undeniable. Ultimately, this is what men are really looking for. They are not just looking for beauty, charm, or flirtation. They are looking for someone who can stand firm in her worth, accept respect with poise, and respond in a way that encourages growth, trust, and connection. Because love, real love, thrives on mutual respect. It thrives on emotional intelligence, grace, and consistency. And when a man sees that in a woman, he knows he has found someone extraordinary. Ladies and gentlemen, the truth is simple. The secret tests men use are not manipulative. They are observational. And one of the most powerful things they watch is how you handle respect, how you accept it, how you respond to it, and how you allow it to influence the energy of the relationship. The way you carry yourself in these moments reveals far more about who you are than words ever could.